This is the Film Geeks Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Film Geeks Podcast. I know we've been missing for a while, but yes, finally we've been back, and hopefully we will stay for a while. And yes, welcome to a brand new edition, new year, the same old guests for all of you people out there. It's just me, Abhishek, and joining me as always are my comrades and cohorts, Anir and Arindam. And of course, joining us on first edition of the Film Geeks Podcast is the friend of the show, Mrigank. So how are you guys doing? Let's start with you, Anir. How has your 2017 been, and how has life been in general? We have not been speaking for a while now.
Yes, we haven't done that in quite a while, and it's been quite a layoff for all of us, I think. We have come back, I hope, with our batteries recharged. 2017 was a pretty good year for movies, and let's see if that continues into 2018. We have a fingers crossed for a lot of good movies, and we know a lot of them are in the pipeline. So let's have a finger crossed and see where it leads us. Arindam, how was your year, man?
2017 was really good, though I did not get to see most of the movies that will make the Oscar rounds this year. So most of the critically acclaimed ones, which will come on later in the year, I haven't watched most of those. The ones that I've generally watched are the blockbusters which came out, and a few of the really good ones. Though I would have wanted to have watched more of them, I just couldn't find the time. Hopefully I'll amend that really soon, and 2018 has a ton of great movies lined up. I just hope that, it'll live up to all our expectations.
While on the topic of 2017, I must say it has been a really good year for movies. There are so many that we saw, movies that we fell in love with, and of course movies that we expected so much out of, but some things sort of never live up to your expectations, And far above anything else, I would like to say that while some of my top movies of 2017 have made it really well, but there are still some others which are not are movies which I have not seen yet. And I think the leading movie on that list is the Blade Runner 2049, which I find it really surprising that I haven't seen till now, but probably soon. So what about you, Abhishek?
Right, 2017 has been a year which is full of highs and lows, as most years has been for me personally, professionally, and in films as well. Now, I've seen some really shitty ones. I've seen some really shitty films which people loved, and I've seen some movies which people may not feature on their top 10, but I absolutely loved. Like, for example, one of the most divisive, I think one movie which can actually sum up 2017 for me has to be The Last Jedi. Because it's a movie which I personally took me like 2 watches to actually understand and grasp what was going on. But that's how the year has been, I think, for most of us. I mean, if you look at whatever is going on around us as well, I think 2017 has been a year of highs and lows. So let's hope that changes in 2018. But surprisingly, 2017 has been a very, very, very strong year for films in general, even TV, even though the Game of Thrones ending was left a lot to be desired for. But despite that, there was an amazing amount of good media out there, be it on the web series part, be it on network television, or be it even on the theaters. So let's start with Arindam right now. Let's talk about your top 3 movies of 2017. Let's get right down to business. Arindam, what are your top 3 movies of 2017?
Well, my top 3, I would, I sort of criticize not Nolan but the Nolanites and how they praise him to high heavens. And just starting off with that, I would like to list Dunkirk as my number 1 movie. Not the top movie, there's no particular order. These are just the top 3 movies that I really liked. The first has to be Dunkirk. It was meant to be watched in the theaters. You just cannot experience it watching it on the small screen. It just wasn't built for that. And I think the biggest theater out there was the perfect setting for you to watch Dunkirk, and IMAX would have been the perfect choice, though it's quite far away. I couldn't make it, but the PVR in which I watched it in just gave me a perfect experience to watch this movie in. Dunkirk, I think the master in that movie has to be Hans Zimmer. He just, put out his very best work. We have been giving him slack that he's repeating a lot of his whatever he picks and chooses from different movies from his past, and he just mixes them up and puts them in the new soundtrack. But this was completely new, right from that ticking thing that he does right from the trailer that starts from the very first second and ends in the last minute. And surprisingly, it was a very short movie and it was very effectively done. The second movie would be Get Out. I know this Jordan Peele's movie has been set, it came out quite early in the year, and it set out a milestone in which other movies which had a social message would have to pass that. And I don't think any other movie came as close as to have a social stand in it. It took the horror genre and just made a little twist in itself, and it was just utterly brilliant. It was a funny movie. Jordan Peele, from Key and Peele, you knew that he had it in him, because there are some parts in Key and Peele which are very scary, even though the setting doesn't call for it, but you knew that he had the potential, and Get Out was just perfect for that. And the third movie, I think not many have watched it. It's called Shot Caller. It was a Netflix original and casts our very own Jamie Lannister, Nicholas Walder-Costow. I just love prison movies, and this is one movie in which you take a white-collared guy who just has one bad day, and how that transforms him into a very scary person, and it just turns his life around. It just takes one moment to screw up your entire life, and that movie perfectly summed it up. It is underspoken. It has one of my favorite actors right now, John Bernthal, in it as well. And this was one movie that you should seek out and watch. I just loved it. So these are the top three movies that for 2017 for me.
Right, you mentioned Shot Caller. There was a similar movie which had come out. I think it had the same pulp, grindhouse feel to it. That was Brawl in Cell Block 99. I think I saw Shot Caller and I saw Brawl in the same weekend, I guess. I am not a huge fan of grindhouse films, but if this is the way to go, and if this is the way where action films will be shot in 2018, I think this is like moving away from the stylized action sequences that you've seen with films like Atomic Blonde and John Wick. I think I don't mind. I really love the way these action films were shot. And let's move on to Mrigank. Mrigank, what were your top three films of 2018?
I think I would like to start with one movie which ended up on pretty much everyone's favorite list. That would be Wonder Woman. And it's more special because the amount of skepticism and the amount of issues that the DC movies have plagued in the past 1 year. I think Wonder Woman was pretty much their only movie which was able to actually reflect how DC movies can be if directed well and actually been given some character development. Although I did like the Justice League, but obviously Wonder Woman is like the top of my list as far as the DC movies go this year. And it's more to do with the fact that it relied on a female character, obviously who has been done to death in the comics and obviously the TV shows, but the way Gal Gadot takes on Wonder Woman and she just makes the character her own, it has its charms. The movie is obviously a blockbuster, but what it did really well was actually show how hope is an actual answer when faced with all this destruction and death around. Gal Gadot turns in a beautiful performance. She is charming as hell, and it feels so natural that I mean this is like right on par with how people were criticizing when Heath Ledger was cast as a Joker a long time back. I mean, I was also one of the critics, as in nobody had seen Gal Gadot act before. I think I have seen her in a few Fast and Furious movies, and that's about it. And so there was a lot of uncertainty as to how she will carry herself. But I think right now, a year later, if you think Wonder Woman, you only think about Gal Gadot, and that's how wonderful she has been. The movie, of course, was directed immensely well by Patty Jenkins. She actually made one of my, I mean, she was related to a really good TV show which I used to like. It's called The Killing, and I think she had directed the first few episodes of it. And while that TV show was all grimy and dirty and all gloomy because of the weathers and all, Wonder Woman is colorful, it's hopeful, and it turns in a big performance given the cast of the characters. Even Chris Pine, who sort of plays the henchman in this movie, was really well placed to act how he does in real life. He was basically Chris Pine in a suit, and yeah, I mean, I really like the movie for that reason. Coming to my second favorite movie of the year, again, this is not in any particular order, but I think it's more to do with the fact that probably I saw the movie really like recently, and I was really surprised that I had not gone to watch this movie, like probably sometime before in the year. The movie I'm talking about is Wind River. It's actually by Taylor Sheridan, who is obviously famous for Denis Villeneuve's Sicario and David Mackenzie's Hell or High Water. But this time he decided to not only screenwrite but also direct the movie. If you haven't seen the movie and if you love books, then if you have read Cormac McCarthy books, this is pretty much right up the alley. And I think Wind River is a real example of how good acting and maybe a somber atmosphere can take a movie forward. I have this thing for westerns, and staying true to how he had written Hell or High Water. This movie is pretty much a western. Although yes, it's a modern western. You don't really have like cowboys on. Okay, you do have cowboys on horses, but it's not the way that you imagine it to turn out, to be honest. The setting is the Wind River Indian Reservation, a real place in central Wyoming. It's got a really thin police force, and it's all got to do with, the killing of a really young girl. Although, I would not like to give the story away, just remember that it is some of the best performances I think I've ever seen from especially Jeremy Renner. He was understated, and sometimes when you actually feel that some performances really drive the movie forward, there's also the very fine Gil Birmingham. If you remember, he was the sheriff's deputy from Hell or High Water. And in this movie, although he gets a screen time of probably overall 15 or 20 minutes, you really feel for him. He plays the father of the dead girl in this case. And I mean, the amount of soulfulness that his performance brings to the movie, I was amazed at how good he was. Obviously, the movie has thematically pitched on one night, and how that one night changes the game for so many people. And in that case, knowing that scene has to be impactful, I think the way it was directed and the way the performances were carried out during that one particular scene in the movie, I think it's one of my favorite scenes. If I have to actually make up a list of my favorite scenes of 2017, that part will obviously play high. So saying that, yeah, it was a beautiful movie. If you haven't seen, definitely go watch it. Just find it out somewhere and just watch it. Okay, so that's enough about Wonder Woman and Wind River, both debuts in my case. So let's move to a movie which starts with I, and this is it. And if I don't know, but you guys should know that I'm a big Stephen King fan. I've read so many of his books, and I think the movie was such a smartly done one, such a smartly made movie that it really drives the point home as to how well a direction, the book was actually written. That because there's so many themes which are similar to the book, and it deals with this group of children in the summer of, I think, 1989, in the small town of Derry, Maine. And children are disappearing at an alarming rate, and there's only one culprit, who is actually a shape-shifting clown. While a lot of people obviously know about this famous plot line, it's the performances once again which drive the point home as to why this movie is such a great watch. You have these kids played by some really talented kids, and obviously you've seen one of them in Stranger Things, and they are so well, I mean, they play together so well that some of the scenes are downright amazing to watch. Um, and it ranks, I mean, the movie for me, it ranks amongst one of the best Stephen King adaptations. And that is no small praise because a lot of his books have been done into movies. Some are good, some are really bad. But this coming of age movie is unlike any horror movie you have seen because it's not really a horror movie, you know. It reminds me more of the Goonies or something like E.T., more than like Insidious or something like that, because the point is that it's not the clown who is trying to scare the kids or something. The point is like how these kids come together to defeat the clown. And obviously, I can't wait for when, the next part of this movie will be launched because I think it was really well done when it comes to actually showing how the personal strifes of each of these kids are actually related to each other. I mean, there are hypochondriac moms and sexually abusive fathers, and these are some really deep themes which have to be handled well because they can go either ways. And it was filmed so well that some of actual, I mean, you feel for the kids in it because some of the actual horrors are not even the shape-shifting creature or the monster here. It's actually real people in the movie. It has some really good nods to Tim Curry's 1990 movies. The 1990 version of Tim Curry's performance as the clown. And I think overall this movie was a great watch, a fun watch, and definitely that's why it stands, right on top of my list. Anirban, can you tell me more about yours?
I think 2017 wasn't such a great year for superheroes. I think the only superhero movie that I truly, truly liked was Logan, and it's a very different superhero movie. I don't know what you guys think. I personally feel that a lot of the superhero movies that came out in 2017 were very, very subpar movies, and because of the lack of, let's just say, competition, so they sort of got elevated to a higher status and did better in the box office than they should have. I mean, there were a lot of movies that we're really, really excited about that probably weren't as good as they should have been. I'm not sure what you guys think, but probably we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. That superhero films, I don't think I enjoyed one superhero film apart from Logan. I know Wonder Woman, we spoke about it at length. You can go back to our previous podcast and check out our Logan review as well. I think Wonder Woman was a great watch. For what it was fucking fantastic. Justice League was a good movie for me, at least because I enjoyed it in the theaters. I'm not really commenting on the quality of the film. Yes, there are a lot of things which don't work in that movie. But apart from that, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. And I completely agree with what you're saying. About elevating, I don't think, what movie did Marvel release this time? Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right?
And Spider-Man Homecoming as well.
And Spider-Man Homecoming as well. Both of these movies I did not enjoy personally. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was just taking whatever worked in Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and just elevating it and just, amplifying it. I think Arindam will have opinions about that. But it's just like they have a formula, and I've been constantly talking about Marvel's formulaic approach to all of their movies ever since, with the exception of Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Most of their movies have been following a set pattern, and that's probably why I'm not really enjoying a lot of Marvel movies which are coming out. Similarly, with that is probably why Logan was such a breath of fresh air, because it is exactly what even for people who are not into the comic books like we guys. I enjoyed the movie because it was such a breath of fresh air. There was such a fresh exposition on a character which is known and loved throughout the pop culture universe. Logan was always, when the X-Men movies came out, this is the Wolverine that all of us wanted to watch. And finally we got that, and this proved to be Hugh Jackman's final role as this character, and probably that's why it worked on so many different levels. Contrarily, if you take something like Spider-Man Homecoming, I personally did not like that movie because I know everyone keeps saying like how good it is. I don't see it. It's just a formulaic. It goes beat by beat by beat, and that entire. I'm not going to give you spoilers here, but an entire twist with the Vulture character. What the fuck was that? I mean, I don't really understand why this movie is praised so much. I'm not really sure if you guys enjoyed it, but I really was not impressed by Spider-Man Homecoming. I hope that changes with the upcoming Infinity War. Let's just hope that they kind of change up the formula a little bit, because if this goes on being the same jokey, same quippy, same beat by beat by beat Marvel formulaic movies that we've seen over the past couple of at least 3 years, then Infinity War is going to be a very, very, very disappointing watch. Arindam, your opinion on this?
I just started the road to Infinity War, which is every week you watch one Marvel movie, and by the time Infinity War releases, you will be caught up with all of them. And what surprised me is how toned down Iron Man 1 was. All the banter, there is almost none of it. It's just RDJ playing Tony Stark as he is, and everything just suit perfectly. The dialogues, the setting, the action, the dramatics, everything was well balanced. It's surprising to see, like Abhishek said, that everything was amplified in Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Everything, if you just watch that and then you watch something like Doctor Strange, you'll be like wondering where, are they getting the tone from? Like what? I think it's because it's Disney and it's Marvel, everything must be market research to the maximum. They must see what the audience is reacting to the most, and that's what they are going off. Kevin Feige, what he does very well is that he plans it out. What DC exactly is not doing. That is why they're failing miserably right now. Even though I just adored Justice League. Of course, like Abhishek said, it has its problem. That's why favoritism, rather than, if you are listing your favorite movies rather than the top movies, you'll make that classification. I think that's why none of us have the Last Jedi on our list. It is a very good movie. It's among our favorites, but of course it has its problem, and that's why it doesn't appear in the top list. So other than that, I think like Abhishek said, Homecoming, even I, being a massive fan of Spider-Man that I am, and as hyped as I was, it just didn't come across to me as being that good. I recently rewatched the original Spider-Man movies as well, and I just fell in love with it. I don't think I liked the Spider-Man movies as much as I did after I watched Homecoming. So that's certainly there. And other than this, yeah, I totally agree with you. It hasn't been a really good year for superheroes. Though Netflix did something amazing with Punisher. They took a complete U-turn. They didn't make it into a gore fest that Punisher Warzone was. Instead, they gave us one of the most comprehensive looks at PTSD among army veterans. And that was something that I really liked. That was what Garth Ennis does. And this was really well done. I think that deserves a mention, of course.
Yeah, because when Mrigank was talking about Wonder Woman, it's just sort of struck me. Like, I know the panel is a big fan of Wonder Woman, but I think I'm one of the ones who didn't enjoy the movie as much. I don't think it'll age as well as other superhero movies might. I mean, it'll be. I don't know why it is so relevant and really appreciated now. I just don't see it personally, and probably that's just the way that I look at movies. But that's not a personal say on whether you should like this movie or not. Moving on, let's just talk about what I think are the top three movies for 2017. The first movie that I'm going to talk about is from this wonderful Korean director that whose movies I always look forward to. And if you guys remember, I was always speaking about Bong Joon-ho and looking forward to his movie, which was supposed to come out on Netflix. And this is Okja that I'm talking about. This is one of the first movies that was in collaboration with Bong Joon-ho and Netflix, and it released directly on the platform itself. Bong Joon-ho is very popular for a lot of the movies that he has done, and a lot of the movies that he has done has actually reached cult status. Now, if you ask me, he has also done The Host. He is also known for Mother, and more recently, he was known for making Snowpiercer, which is an absolute treat to watch. But I think the movie that he's most known for is Memories of a Murderer, which I think is, if you watch that movie, you know what cinematic brilliance in is. And I think Okja is another representation and continuation of that chain of thought. And Bong Joon-ho has made it to uh, his cinematic style has evolved to such an extent that I think he has sort of perfected the way that when you watch his movie, you know that it's Bong Joon-ho. It's very beautiful the way he represents. But it's not just the cinematography that is brilliant in his movies. What I like is that there's always this deep-seated uh, angst that underlies all of his movies, and uh, and the depth of emotions that uh, he explores through his characters are very expansive, and it's very difficult when you look at the kind of topics that he picks for his movies. It's just amazing that he's able to achieve all of that, and uh, so that's why Okja is one of the top movies for me. The other top movies that I would personally recommend is one of the top action movies of the year for me, which was John Wick Part 2. This is again another one that we had mentioned in our previous list of movies that we are looking forward to. Now, it's rarely happens that when a sequel comes out that it's as good as the original. I mean, we can actually count on our fingertips the number of movies that have been sequels but have been better than the original. This is one of those movies, in my personal opinion. I mean, there was very fine line that they had to tread in order to sort of be better than the original. I think this is the exact way that they should have made it. There's no doubt. I mean, like Abhishek was talking about the stylized action and neo-noir action thriller that we have started to call them. This is a genre that has exploded onto the scene, and with Atomic Blonde also you're being made in the last year, people might think about the genre being a little bit oversaturated, but if you watch this movie, I think you will realize that this is not really one of those movies that just uh, you watch and you forget about. This is one of those movies that stays with you, not just because of the brilliance of the action scenes, and each and every one of them is brilliant, more brilliant than the original one. And if you remember the original one was very much lauded mostly for its action scenes, but this one takes it one step further. It does help that the director is Chad Stahelski is kind of a ex uh, stunt coordinator, so I think that carries over and helps him in that sort of vision. But over and all, I think this is one of those movies that's also sets up the uh, third movie, which is supposed to drop in next year in 2019. So it sets it up very perfectly for that. So this is again something that people should definitely watch if they haven't done so. The third movie is Blade Runner 2049. This is sort of something that I didn't know whether I would love or not, because the original Blade Runner took quite a while to actually get on my good side, so to speak, because it sort of has it's masterfully made Blade Runner, the original movie, but it's the pacing is very different, and if you sort of do not watch it more than once, you might not even like it. So it's one of those movies that you have. One second, sorry. It's one of those movies that require repeated watch to sort of rub off on you. But I think Blade Runner in that sort is sort of the perfect sequel because when it first got announced, there was sort of this apprehension that I had that it could be uh, sort of Hollywood trying to cash it on all the remakes that were coming out. I mean, we have seen a lot of shit remakes in the recent years. Ghostbusters gets a very big nod on that, and you know, which makes anyone apprehensive of any sequel that is being made. So, or remake for that matter. So I was a little bit apprehensive, but of course, the fact that Denis Villeneuve is attached to it uh, made it a little easier for me to sort of believe that this could actually be a good movie. And coming from Arrival, this was something that he said that he was very attached to, and that he had driven a lot of uh, sorry, he had driven a lot of influence from the original Blade Runner. He had tried to make it as close to the original as possible while maintaining his own sense of what Blade Runner should be. So, what he has achieved in that is that this movie is very beautifully made because of the themes, even though it sort of feels very similar to the original Blade Runner. You sort of also understand why it's very different from the original, and so you can make that distinction very clearly. Also, the cinematography is brilliant, as that's the first thing that you'll notice because as the first scene lands on the screen, and then you understand that the cinematography is very different and very brilliant, and that maintains throughout. I think this movie, even if it is not remembered for anything else, and that is a big if, it will definitely be remembered for its brilliant cinematography. I'm sure that it has been nominated for Best Cinematography for the Academy Awards this year, and I won't be surprised if it does win for that section as well. Apart from that, what I'm like most about the movie is that it does not ignore its roots. So you have Deckard, who obviously was a big part of the original, and it involves him, and the chemistry between Deckard and Kay, who is played by Ryan Gosling, is very fantastic. Of course, they're very the instances of characters actually coming together and interacting is very limited if you watch the movie. So the amount of range of emotions and the all of the depth that has been derived from that limited amount of interaction, it's just amazing that anybody is able to do that. So this is one of the reasons why it should be one of the top movies of 2017 nonetheless in any list, and it's definitely one of the top movies in my list for sure.
One of the factors which people don't talk about when Blade Runner 2049 comes up in any discussion is how good Jared Leto was in that film. He was just fantastic, and I'm so glad that he has left that shitty version of Joker and how he became an insane person over the course of 3 months. I am just so glad that he has left it all behind, unless David Ayer has something to say about it in his upcoming Suicide Squad 2, I think, where he is also scheduled to appear. Let's hope that that doesn't happen. But yeah, Jared Leto was fantastic in that film, as good as Ryan Gosling was, and surprisingly how good Dave Bautista was. I thought Jared Leto was the star of Blade Runner 2049. He's there for a very limited time, but whenever he's there, he has this malevolent energy around him that, you know, this guy's gonna fuck shit up for everyone involved. And that is one part of this movie which I love. Another part, I love everything about Blade Runner 2049. I keep saying this, it's one of the reasons why I love films. It is such a fantastically made film. And I'm glad that you brought it up because my top three films doesn't feature Blade Runner 2049. And let's start off with Logan. We have spoken at length about this film. In fact, we have a podcast dedicated to Logan, so you guys can go back and check that out. And my thoughts are primarily remain the same for this film. It's one of the greatest swan songs. It's one of the greatest send-offs to any character in any medium ever, be it comic books, be it film, be it TV, be it whatever medium. Logan was perfect. Logan is what every superhero movie should aspire to be. You don't need fucking quips. You don't need silly jokes. It doesn't have to appeal to kids all the time. Logan was a serious film done in a very serious way, in a way that a director actually understands the character and actually understands the weight that the character has on him for years and years of self-abuse that this character has had upon himself, and how doing the good things can, the consequences of doing the right thing at all the time can have on a particular character. And more than a superhero film, it's a great family movie in the sense that it explains the dynamics between a father and a daughter relationship, and which is exactly what most films try to do, and they fail miserably, and Logan did it perfectly. And this is a fantastic film. It's worth your time. If you haven't watched it already, go out of your way and seek this movie out. It's a fantastic movie directed by James Mangold, came out sometime in February. The next movie which I'm going to talk about is Baby Driver. I'm a huge Edgar Wright fan. And more importantly, I'm a huge fan of music. So Baby Driver combined all of these things, combined the masterful direction of Edgar Wright, direction and editing of Edgar Wright, which we got glimpses of in his Cornetto trilogy, and he brought it all full circle in Baby Driver. It had some amazing soundtrack. It had in the entire movie, if you ask me, it's a combination of La La Land and Pulp Fiction, in the sense like you have this heist film, and which is primarily a musical, and it's accentuated with some amazing soundtrack. It's like I said, it's written and directed by Edgar Wright, and it stars Ansel Elgort, who was fantastic, Kevin Spacey, Lily James, Elsa Gonzalez, John Hamm, Jamie Foxx, and John Bernthal. John Bernthal has been in some amazing films. This has been quietly he's building up a great filmography. As you can see, he was there in Wind River, and he was there in this one as well. He's just a fantastic actor. The plot follows Baby, if you haven't watched it already, who is a young getaway driver and a music lover who works for a kingpin and helps them to perform several heists along seasoned robbers, putting himself and his waitress girlfriend under increasing danger. I think they're setting up for a sequel. In one of the podcasts I listened to, in fact, Edgar Wright has come out and said that he is writing a sequel. He has not given a date as to when it will come out. I just hope that all the people who are involved in this film are involved in the sequel as well. And finally, one of my favorite movies of last year has to be Mother. Because this movie, I was very apprehensive. I could not catch it on theaters because it did not release in India. But I was really apprehensive as to what this movie will be, because I did not watch any of the trailers. I did not read any of the reviews. But whatever I could understand from whatever conversation was happening on social media, it was a very divisive film. And it's directed and written by one of my favorite authors of our times, Darren Aronofsky. I don't think I've hated any Darren Aronofsky film. And it stars Jennifer Lawrence, Javier Bardem, Ed Harris, and Michelle Pfeiffer. The plot follows a young woman whose seemingly peaceful life with her husband in their country home is disrupted by the arrival of a mysterious couple who are literally the couple from hell. I'm not going to give away any of the plot, but this movie there is no middle ground when it comes to Mother, right? You will either love it or you will fucking hate it. There is no middle ground. So I absolutely love this movie. I was blown away. In fact, there was towards the end, in the final 15 to 20 minutes, I can't even explain it in my own words as to how incredible it is, in the sense like it's like nothing I have ever seen in film. It is a fantastic watch, and you should definitely go out of your way to check it out. And I'm surprised and why it ranks so highly in my list. I'm pretty sure that you guys, the panel in fact, love this movie as well. It's because a movie such as this was greenlit by a major studio in 2017. It just goes to prove that Darren Aronofsky is one of the last remaining creative voices in our field. I'm really excited for what he has up next, and talking about things which we are looking forward to. Apart from from me personally, who's looking forward to the new Aronofsky film or the next Aronofsky film, whenever that happens. Let's start with you, Arindam. What are the movies that you're looking forward to in 2018?
So Fox has been doing something wonderful with the superhero franchise that they have, bearing the X-Men movies, which have just become a Jennifer Lawrence vehicle. Other than that, they put up Logan. They knew that something wasn't working, so they put out a really adult, mature movie, which is a serious contender for the Oscars. Then they knew what Deadpool was, and they gave him a totally hard do anything that you want type of movie, and which became the most successful R-rated movie of all time, and I'm pretty sure the second part will be the first movie to gross 1 billion and above, because of the hype and how great Ryan Reynolds is. What they did again with New Mutants is something that has not been done yet. They are putting a completely original take and on the New Mutants, which was a horror book when it came out. And they are doing a pure horror movie. I did not expect this from the same guy who also made The Fault in Our Stars. Josh Boone is writing the screenplay and also directing it, and I think it's going to be incredible. The trailer just totally blew me away. I did not expect it to be a pure horror movie, and this was just that. And this is the first movie that I'm really looking forward to. I love to see what is going to happen with the characters and the movies now, since Disney has taken over Fox Studios. So essentially they are Marvel properties now, where they rightfully belong, but somehow I'm not as happy as I should be. But let's see how it turns out. Other than that, the second movie that I'm really looking forward to is The Predator. The Predator brings Shane Black back again to the universe that he wrote initially. And this will just be incredible. It has a great cast with Boyd Holbrook, who was also in Logan, and you may remember him as the white guy from Narcos. And Keegan-Michael Key, of all people, is also there. There's also Jacob Tremblay, who you remember from The Room, and he was a very good actor over there. And it has a few more people like Alfie Allen and also Olivia Munn. But the main star of this movie has to be Shane Black. You know that this guy can just not write a bad script, and everything just sort of works theoretically. I'm looking forward to the trailer. It hasn't been released yet, but I'm pretty sure he's going to give us a very original take. And the third movie that has to be on everyone's list is Isle of Dogs. It's the next Wes Anderson movie, and it's basically about dogs in a dystopian future Japan, in which they land up on an island which has been quarantined for some reason. Like all Wes Anderson movies, the plot hardly makes any sense. But what makes sense is how wonderfully he directs the entire movie, how it is shot, and it also brings back Wes Anderson into the stop motion world. Last we saw it was one of the greatest animated movies of all time, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and I don't expect any less from it. This movie also has a superb cast like every Wes Anderson movie. It has Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum, F. Murray Abraham of all people, Francis McDormand, so Harvey Keitel, Scarlett Johansson. It's like mind-blowing what he does, and also an incredible Japanese cast with Ken Watanabe and Yujiro Noda as well. So these are three movies that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm pretty sure that they will not disappoint.
Yeah, the first movie which I'm really excited for in 2018 has to be Incredibles 2, which is a sequel to the 2004 film Incredibles. It's again written and directed by Brad Bird, who was the writer and director of the first film, and features Holly Hunter, Craig T. Nelson, Sarah Vowell, and Samuel L. Jackson. Well, the premise of this film is Elastigirl, played by Holly Hunter, it becomes a full-time crime fighter, while her husband Bob Parr, or also known as Mr. Incredible, becomes a stay-at-home dad, and he has to take care of their children. That is Violet, Dash, and Jack, who was my favorite character. While Jack discovers his powers. However, they, along with Frozone, that is Samuel L. Jackson, who is also awesome, will have to battle a new villain called the Underminer, who's been played by John Ratzenberger, with a sinister, and he has something really fucked up in mind as well. So this is one movie I'm really looking forward to, because if you ask me, Incredibles is one of the greatest superhero films ever made. If you just replace their suits from red to blue, you'll basically get the fantastic film movie that you always wanted. It's just a fantastic movie. If you haven't watched it already, what are you doing with your life? Just go out and watch Incredibles. Second one, which I'm really excited for, of course, is Avengers, the Infinity Wars. Because I don't know why everyone has kind of forgotten about it, especially after the underwhelming trailer, which I personally thought was really underwhelming. Avengers Infinity War, it's directed by the Russos and it's written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. It's coming out in May 4th, 2018. And well, it talks about, it's a culmination of the three phases of Marvel, and they, as you guys must have known already, if anyone has watched even one Marvel movie, they're going up against Thanos. Well, that's basically the synopsis. We'll finally get to see Thanos in all his glory, even though his character designs looks really stupid, but that's just me. He should have that bloody helmet on. Anyway, so they're going up against Thanos, and we'll finally get to see the Black Order in all their glory, and Captain America in his glorious beard. And just to tell you guys about the cast, and the cast will take me another 5 minutes. But yeah, the cast is Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, Iron Man. Chris Evans as Captain America, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Mark Ruffalo as Hulk, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Josh Brolin as Thanos, Tom Hiddleston as Loki, Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. You know the rest. They have everyone coming back for this film. And let's have some bold predictions right now. Let's start with you, Anirban. Do you think Captain America is going to die?
I don't think Captain America is going to die. I think it's more probable that Tony Stark will die.
I think they will replicate that famous panel from the Infinity Gauntlet in which Captain America gets punched by Thanos. And I think Captain America will die because Bucky needs to be brought back into the fold, and he will be the one who replaces Steve. But I'm not entirely sure if they're going to kill, though. In the fourth movie is said to be the last movie of the franchise, of the entire MCU. So I'm not really sure what Kevin Feige is planning, but there are chances, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Okay, and do you guys think, we've touched on this earlier as well, but do you guys think we'll get a glimpse of Captain Marvel in probably, if not in this one, probably in the next one?
Of course, she is there in the fourth. She has to be, because Infinity War leads up to Captain Marvel, and then the fourth part is released, and she is essential in the Infinity entire cosmic universe that is there in the comics. Captain Marvel is a critical character over there, and so is Adam Warlock, who is supposed to be in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 as well. So I'm hoping both of them are there in some capacity in at least the fourth movie, but I'm not really sure. But they're doing totally different with what we've seen from the comics. So only Kevin Feige knows what he has up his sleeves.
Right, and finally, the movie which I'm looking forward to the most this year has to be by my boy, my favorite current director, Damien Chazelle, and that's his next movie is called First Man. It's written and directed by him, and it's based on this book called First Man, The Life of Neil Armstrong by James R. Hansen. Of course, it stars Ryan Gosling as Neil Armstrong, along with Claire Foy, Corey Stoll, Kyle Chandler, and Jason Clarke, and it depicts the years leading up to the Apollo 11 mission in 1969. This film is set to be released in October 12th, 2018. This is one director I absolutely adore. I mean, if anyone could have taken my dislike for musicals and turn me into loving La La Land as much as I do love La La Land right now, it had to be this guy. And this guy he has such an amazing sense of visuals. I always get a feeling of a very young Steven Spielberg from Damien Chazelle. He's just two fantastic films away from being that guy, right? So I absolutely love Damien Chazelle. I'm really looking forward to First Man. This, I think, is gonna just blow all of our minds. Anirban, let's start with you. What are the movies that you're looking forward to in 2018?
Yeah, thanks for that, man. I think your list is brilliant. I think a lot of the movies I'll be looking forward to. Obviously, we're all looking forward to Infinity Wars. The whole build-up has been towards that. I'm a little bit worried because the trailer, like you said, wasn't that hot. So I'm a little bit worried because all of this can't be for a weak damn squib of ending. That'll be the most disappointing thing that we've ever been built up to in all of these years. Now, yeah, I think I'm also currently planning to do the whole one Marvel movie a week, and I agree with Arindam. I'm also not really happy with the way things are moving and the whole Disney Marvel. I like to call it a fiasco, if I might, and I'm not really happy with the way things are going. But let me not digress any further. The movies that I'm most looking forward to in the next year, one of them is the movie that actually shouldn't have been made but was made due to fan persistence, if I may say so. And there are a lot of speculations that it was, in fact, because of Ryan Reynolds that this movie was made because he leaked the now famous clip that was responsible for this whole movie to be made. But I'm talking about Deadpool here, and obviously the first movie was so unexpectedly funny and brilliant that it made a shit ton of money. And I've not met a single person who hates this movie. I mean, there might be some of them out there, but I haven't met them. And this is one of the movies that obviously, definitely, uh, because of the shit ton of money that it made, did require a sequel. And the way that this movie is being structured, I think it's a perfect vehicle for Ryan Reynolds. He tried his best to be a lot of other things. He tried his best to be Green Lantern. He failed miserably. But I think Deadpool is one of the characters that is just tailor perfectly made, custom made for Ryan Reynolds. It's just that snappy mouth of his that shows how witty he is in actual real life. It's actually so perfect for him that you just can't imagine anybody else playing Deadpool. So I think that this is one of the movies that was bound to do well. So even if it's just for the laughs, I'm just waiting, really waiting for this movie. The other movie that I'm waiting for is not really that in the similar vein. It's follow up to Sicario. Sicario was one of those movies that just took a lot of us by surprise because we are not expecting the kind of movie that it was. I didn't expect to be very cartel driven, so to say, and the whole theme of the movie is not something that you realize till the end, which is actually a revenge movie. Uh, but that is not something that you realize. And Sicario obviously doesn't have Emily Blunt returning, but the trailer to it released a few uh, months back, I believe, and it no, sorry, a few weeks back, if I'm not mistaken, and it does look very brilliant. And even without Emily Blunt, who was a major part of the last movie. But if I'm honest, she was one of the weaker parts of the last movie. So I think they have done things in the right direction and they have taken it back to where the stronger elements remain. And now Josh Brolin and Benicio del Toro and the relationship that was explored in the last movie sort of seems to be implied that it's still being exploited in the second stage of the movie. So this is again something that I'll be looking forward to. The third movie that I'm really looking forward to, and it's not that far off, is Black Panther. Obviously, this has been in news for some time now, and this is something that is sort of very has a lot of African American as well as black actors, and because it is set in Africa, so I was not really impressed with the trailer at first, but I think it has grown on me, and the music itself is fantastic in the trailer. If anybody else has seen it, I think the music is fantastic. It's by Run the Jewels, and it fits the bill perfectly. I think there's a lot of connections to the whole Marvel universe, and but it's as a standalone movie, I think this is something that is exploring a character that is not really a big part of the whole Marvel comic universe as well, because Black Panther, like it or not, was never one of the more popular superheroes, and I think a lot of us actually the first time read comics that were focused on him uh, after we saw him on Captain America. So this is again not one of the most popular superheroes out there, but definitely with Ryan Coogler attached to this movie, I think this is one of those movies that obviously has a potential to do really, really well, and he's definitely the cast itself looks amazing. There's Chadwick Boseman who obviously played Black Panther or T'Challa, and we also have Michael B. Jordan who is a big time Ryan Coogler collaborator. We also have Lupita Nyong'o, Martin Freeman, who is again reprising his role as Everest Ross. Sorry, not. I went off the script out there. My bad. Please so card you. Okay. So we also have Martin Freeman and we also have Andy Serkis uh, who is returning. Oh, fuck, man. Sorry. So it's got a fantastic cast. I'm just going to begin again. Okay. So this movie has a fantastic cast, and this got Chadwick Boseman, who's returning as Black Panther or T'Challa, and it also has Michael B. Jordan, who is a frequent Ryan Coogler collaborator. It also has Lupita Nyong'o, Martin Freeman, Angela Bassett, and Andy Serkis. So this is again one of those movies that I'm sure will is going to do well. So so looking forward to this movie, which is supposed to release actually the next month itself in February 16th in the US. Well, let's hope it hits us at the same time in India.
You guys had a great list for 2018, and I am definitely waiting to watch quite a few of those movies, to be honest. Like, um, talking about my favorite upcoming movies, uh, probably a lot of them are really, pop culture-ish, blockbusters, but like, I had to put up a list soon enough. And off the top of my head, I think the first movie which I'll be putting up in that list is Pacific Rim Uprising, which is actually a sequel to the very criminally underrated Pacific Rim, which I absolutely loved. I think Guillermo del Toro was amazingly like is an amazing director, and when he worked on that movie, I was like, uh, I was really happy that somebody was making this grand mecha versus kaiju fight and bringing it to the big screen. And when I saw that movie, I just fell in love with it. I think I've seen it almost 3 times. And every single time I watch Pacific Rim, I just am amazed at the visuals, and it's just a, out and out blast. Talking about sequel, obviously Del Toro is not associated anymore. This film, you might say, has gone through quite a bit of production hell. A lot of the original actors had to drop out. But I still have faith in the movie, probably because, as far as I know, it can be a really good, movie to watch on the screen, on the big screen, and that's all I want from it, to be honest, to have a great fight between the mechas and the kaijus, and just bring those goddamn awesome scenes on the screen once again. Talking about Uprising, this time we have John Boyega, who plays Jake Pentecost, who is actually the son of Stacker Pentecost, who was played by Idris Elba in the first film. Now, Idris Elba is not dissociated, obviously, and he is actually reunited with Mako Mori, and they are supposed to lead a new generation of Jaeger pilots to fight a new kaiju threat. Now, as far as blockbusters are concerned, Pacific Rim is not something like which you really need to think hard or think much more about. Like you just go to watch this movie and you have a good time. So as long as this movie is able to maintain that feeling for me, I'll be happy. So let's see how it goes. The second movie I think which I'm really excited for is obviously Ready Player One. Once again, it's releasing in the first quarter of 2018, and it's being directed by Steven Spielberg, who just can't get to seem. I mean, he just can't seem to get himself rid of making sci-fi blockbuster movies. Probably because his resume is so big, and he can just keep adding to the stuff. But as long as this movie stands up to my okay, fuck. So, Ready Player One, directed by, is a really good book written by Ernest Cline, and it has everything to do with pop culture from the 80s and 90s. And if you consider yourself an 80s or 90s kid, then this movie should really, drive the point back home and, take you right back to your childhood. I think there have been 2 trailers which came out. They look amazing. There's so much pop culture stuff in there that every time the trailer comes out, I think a lot of these internet publications, they just go into dissecting which all characters and which all technologies and things from pop culture stood out in the trailer. I have a feeling that this movie is obviously going to be lovingly made, and it has some really good actors. You have the up-and-coming Tash Sheridan, who actually will be playing Wade Watts. You have TJ Miller, everybody knows him from Silicon Valley, and he plays IROC. And then you have Olivia Cook playing Artemis. So I have a lot of hope from this movie, and I hope it lives up to my expectations, because I thought the book was really well written. And although a few parts might not really translate well on screen, but it's Steven Spielberg, and if anybody makes a sci-fi blockbuster and wants it to make sure that everybody can associate it with it, I mean, then that's Steven Spielberg for you. Now, the third movie is again a very sci-fi dystopian future kind of a movie, but this time it's being directed by Alex Garland, and the movie I'm talking about is Annihilation. Now, Alex Garland, if you guys know, was also the man behind Ex Machina, and if you have to find a director who does sci-fi movies which are really different from how Steven Spielberg does them, then it's probably this guy, because his movies are not really fun watches or blockbuster types. They're more about how AI or even technology can sort of change our lives. And while Ex Machina was a great example of how good this director is, I have a feeling that with Annihilation he's sort of going to really surpass himself, because it stars Natalie Portman, and I mean, she's a great actress in itself. And then it's based on this trilogy of books, so there's a possibility that if it does well, it might even be sequels, unless I doubt he's squeezing the whole trilogy into a single movie. And it's based on the books. So the trilogy is called Southern Reach. It's, I think, by Jeff Vandermeer, and it's a very smart, thought-provoking sci-fi tale. And the trailers, obviously, they give you an outlook into what to expect. You have a strange presence in a small coastal area which has sort of sealed itself behind an energy barrier, and you have the government sending an expedition team to discover what is behind it. Now, this sounds very much like the plot of The Predator or something, but I'm sure this movie is going to be really far removed from such things. Now, it looks that from the trailer, that Alex Garland has probably brought an extraterrestrial threat more to the fore in the movie as compared to the books. But again, it's basically how trailers are cut nowadays. They really need to excite the people to get them into the movie. So if his form is any indication, I'm sure this movie will stand up to the books as well, because there are some granular character studies, and how they can actually deal with this alien threat. And if you saw last year's Arrival, and if you loved it, then I'm sure that this movie also might be right up your alley. So I think that's my list of the movies that I'm expecting to do well, and I'm really looking forward to in 2018. So fingers crossed.
So that does it, in fact, for all of the movies which we're looking forward to in 2018. Obviously, this is a year without Game of Thrones, so yeah, that's one thing which is off our radar for this year at least. That is one show which we'll not be looking forward to.
Talking about shows, I'm sure we all are waiting to watch Westworld this year because even though there's no Game of Thrones, at least we're getting a second season of Westworld. And as far as things go, I think Mindhunter is on the list too. But one TV show which sort of like caught my attention and I had no idea it was coming out is actually The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. And I think it will be on Netflix. And if you like, the Coen brothers brand of comedy and, their brand of movie making, then I'm sure this television debut of this duo would be like something that you really should watch out for. It's been billed to be a Western anthology series, and I really like their take on Westerns. So whatever I've done till now, and it's apparently going to have 6 different episodes with 6 different tales. And I think the star of the TV show is actually Tim Blake, who plays Buster Scruggs, and there's James Franco in there somewhere as well. So I mean, I don't really know too much, but I'm about this TV show, but I'm so excited to watch this when it comes out.
This is the golden age of television, so there's always going to be something coming out. There's not much to, say that whatever we are revisiting or whatever new is coming out, I think we'll be stuck in a very long discussion if we are sitting down and talking about that. I mean, we have already done that with the movies, and I think we are barely scratching the surface of it. So I'll say that the one that I'm looking forward to is probably Atlanta, because that's the one that's in the immediate vicinity. It'll be releasing in March, first week, if I'm not mistaken. Then I'll start from there. Obviously, Westworld is obviously there. Rest we'll see. There are a lot of TV shows that come out, but they're some of them that don't live up to their potential, and some of them that actually exceed our wildest expectations of them, like Westworld did. So this is actually the golden age of television, and we are very lucky that we are in it right now, and we should be watching as much as we can, because who knows when it'll be replaced by formulaic shows, and shows like Big Bang Theory become the norm, because we can't run away from the fact that shows like that, the actors get paid a lot, and a lot of people actually love those shows. I don't for the life of me understand why, but yeah, that's the scenario where original shows are not getting made and formulaic shows become the next big thing. Or let's hope. I don't know what to say about that, right? But because we have original shows now, so let's just watch them.
We spoke about all of the things that we were looking forward to, be it TV or films, and we'll try to make this more of a regular thing going forward. I mean, most of you have to understand that this is not our day job. We actually have jobs, and we actually take out time from our days to actually make the show for all of you out there. So we would really appreciate if you subscribe to our channel and like this video and share it among your friends. Thank you again for being a part of this show. You guys can check us or check out all of our old podcasts, or go to www.indiannerve.com/podcast and like our Facebook page as well. The link to all of our social media is in the description below. Make sure again you subscribe to this channel and click on that bell icon so that you don't miss out on any of our episodes. You can find us on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And like I said, you can visit us at www.indiannerve.com/podcast if you want to check out all of our old episodes. I'd like to thank all of your listeners out there for your time. Please like and share this video and subscribe to this channel. So from all of us here, have a great 2018, and wherever you're listening to, we hope you're having a great day. Thank you, good night, goodbye, and may the force be with you always.